Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here as always by a man who's ready to talk about anything but quarterbacks today. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing great as always. I started this. Do you know Panera Bread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, they have this thing called the Sips Club, where
I've heard of
like,
this, yes.
yeah, you get they did like a 2-month trial, but you get like drinks. And I drive by a Panera Bread quite frequently, so
Okay.
they just are giving away free coffee basically if you sign up for this thing for 2 months. So
Okay, that's interesting. See, I don't drink coffee though, so I don't think that would really help me. But for the listeners, there you go.
they also have this charged lemonade thing that's like an inordinate amount of caffeine for one beverage. But I haven't gotten to try that yet. I don't know if I want to, but they do have a lot of coffee out all the time, so I'll take it.
Okay, well, there you go. I've heard about that, but I feel like I don't know. It only really makes sense if you drive past the Panera to work every day, right?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And I get their whole shtick. I know what they're doing to me. They want me to buy food every time I buy you get a free drink. And it's worked a couple times. I've bought in a couple salads from there now, just in this week alone. But the free coffee is pretty nice, pretty routinely too.
Yeah, Panera's I think underratedly a good place to get food. I feel like that's what no one ever talks about Panera, but I like it.
Yeah, Pro Panera podcast. That's what this is.
Yeah, this was not Panera did not sponsor this section of the podcast.
If they want to, go ahead. I'll take free salads.
Yeah, we'll take the Panera. We'll just get paid in salads, no actual money.
Yeah, I would be okay with that, honestly.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Today, we will be talking about the biggest question for every NFC team. We already did the AFC team last week, so if you missed that one, definitely check it out. But it was a fun episode last week, so hopefully we can make it equally fun this week.
Yeah, I mean, we keep everything fun. Unless we make fun of your favorite team, then it's not so fun.
Right. Yeah. I think we pretty much, if you're a listener, you probably enjoy it when we talk about 31 teams in the NFL.
Yeah. Giants fans, feel free to lock in here. This should be a good one.
Yeah. Giants fans just hate us. So we're the anti-Giants podcast at this point.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for you. It doesn't make sense for me.
I don't know what you did to them, man.
Everyone's convinced I hate the Giants, which is fair given my takes, but I don't have any issue towards the Giants. It's just I just happen to have takes that I think that the Giants fans don't like.
I don't know. I guess we'll see what our question is this week.
Yeah, we will see. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the NFC East. We're gonna go NFC East, then North, then we'll do South, and then finish it out West. The Eagles. What is your biggest question for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, pretty simple. I have this one as, can this defense still be elite? There's a lot of changes that happened to this Philadelphia Eagles defense. I thought they did a really good job of keeping some of their key guys when they had, there were so many free agents out of this group that it was just how the heck is this going to happen? There was talk of even cutting Darius Slay, I think, at one point in the offseason. The offseason felt so long, it feels like forever ago. But still, we knew they were going to take some losses. I guess the question is, how do they recover from those losses? Can Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis step into that Hargreaves role? I think that's going to be a big question. I don't think they're going to replicate Hargreaves, but I think that they can still do pretty good. And you look at that, you look at CJ Edwards, you look at CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's 3 pretty good starters on a really good defense last year. So how do you replace those guys? I've said my Jonathan Gannon piece, so I don't want to get too much into it. I think that's still an upgrade just replacing him. But that being said, that is still a change to this team that was good on the defensive side of the ball. And while I think this team's still good and probably the favorites in the NFC, those are the kind of margins that are the difference between losing the playoffs and making or winning the Super Bowl. So that's the biggest question I have for the Eagles.
Yeah. I have to say, so my biggest question was the loss of the linebackers, and we're kind of in the same boat of the loss of the defensive players in general. I do wonder though. It feels like they're going to still coach this defense pretty similar to how they did last year, right? I doubt they're going to change it too much.
Uh, I would imagine it's not reinventing the wheel here because, I mean, despite some of the things I didn't like about Jonathan Gannon, they still got results. And
Hmm.
there's still a lot of really talented players here. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think they're going to try and do anything too fancy here. They just need the younger guys that they had drafted. N'Kobe Dean's going to step into a bigger role. I imagine Carter's going to start from day one. They need those guys to play and be good.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the Sean Desai, the new coordinator for the Eagles. He's been a coordinator or a coach under the elite innovative minds such as John Fox, Matt Nagy, and Pete Carroll. So definitely someone a new age guy.
Yeah, this guy definitely has analytics written all over him, right?
Yeah, but if he's with the Eagles, I assume that's he'll he will.
I would hope so.
Hmm.
There's still, we'll see how some of these guys work out. But yeah, I mean, Gardner Johnson was such a steal for them last year too, and
Hmm.
I know that the biggest one was being able to keep Slay and Bradbury, but I feel like that was such a huge success in getting him in that defense as well. That was just kind of adding, the rich getting richer, if you will. And we've seen guys like specifically Darius Slay and James Bradbury kind of be inconsistent year to year. Like it wouldn't be shocking to me if those guys had some struggles this season. They're not guys who have year in and year out been studs. But they were really good last year, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to be really good again.
Yeah, I do wonder. We always like to talk about with linebackers. Going back to my question of because we're going to now see maybe a full season from N'Kobe Dean, someone who was very hyped up coming out of college that fell a little bit in the draft. They lose Kaiser White and TJ Edwards. It's we always talk about okay, well that's kind of the icing on the cake. Well, there's still value there in good linebackers, and
Yeah.
losing them, I'm interested in seeing how it could affect them.
Yeah, and Dean's a guy who had questions going into his NFL career and his draft status because he wasn't necessarily the biggest guy on a football field. So, how is he able to handle that responsibility as that middle linebacker? Because I mean, him and TJ Edwards were almost polar opposite players, right? Edwards was this big, it seemed like almost 2000-esque linebacker there in the middle, where Dean's this, sideline to sideline quick guy, but he's not necessarily going to plug a lot of those gaps in the line of scrimmage. So it's going to be interesting to see how that looks between those two.
Yeah, we have a comment of the Sai was embarrassing in Chicago, so I'm sure he'll make the Eagles the #1 defense and get a head coaching gig with the Falcons. Yeah, yeah, I think Thomas here has he has the script leaked already.
Yeah, that is a good one. So yeah, I mean it's going to be an interesting question. I'm still betting on this defense being pretty good, but
Hmm.
they were really good last year, and I feel like that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, interesting to see how it goes. The Cowboys, I have Mike McCarthy's play calling. It was announced this offseason Mike McCarthy will be calling plays, which usually is sort of the I don't know, trying to when the boat is flooded and you're just getting a bucket and trying to get it out of get the water out of the boat. Like it's usually that's just you can tread water for a bit, but eventually you're going to drown when the head coach all of a sudden has to take over play calling. Interested in seeing how this is going to go.
Yeah, I'm interested. The only thing is I think this offense is going to be nasty regardless. Like it could be
Hmm.
a disaster with him back there. And it could be a disaster just as far as his play calling's bad. But like I just look at like we're gonna get a healthy Tyron Smith, fingers crossed. You're pairing him with, Tyler Smith had a really good rookie season too. You
Hmm.
look at that group, you look at Brandon Cooks being added to this offense. Michael Gallup's probably gonna do better in that third role because he is a number 3 receiver probably.
Hmm.
I losing Schultz stinks, but Jake Ferguson I thought was pretty good last season too. And then you got Pollard and Prescott, and Pollard's obviously a very good running back. I mean, it should be a nasty offense. It really should. But how much does that change things? Because it's not always easy to change play callers. Believe me, I can attest to this. I watched the Patriots last season.
Hmm.
How is that going to look, and how is McCarthy going to handle that responsibility?
Well, yeah, and you say nasty, but like nasty in what sense? I don't know if it's going to be Kansas City's offense.
I mean, this team is rated like fairly recently as a number 1 offense in football, like
It
statistically. But I
depends on
mean,
what stats you look at.
but there are still even like I still feel like even if there are statistics saying you're the best offense in football, that's still a positive sign, right? Like that's a positive sign of what this team can be. Like it could easily rank as a top 5 offense in the league. You know, obviously you'd like to have Patrick Mahomes back there, but so would 31 other NFL teams. So I just think all that could kind of work out. But I mean, I don't know. The best thing that the Cowboys had the last 2 years was that it felt like Mike McCarthy had almost zero responsibility.
Right.
And now there's back responsibility on his plate. So how does that work?
Yeah, no. I mean, listen. Even in the stat that I like to use, points per drive, they've still done good, right? I'm not trying to say they haven't done good. They were 8th 2 years ago, and then last year they were 6th. So you'll take that for sure. But my question is, like you said, there is the potential for a top 5 offense. I agree. I think there's potential for them to drop significantly lower as well, which is why I have it as the biggest question is the play calling.
Yeah, it was my biggest question too. So we're in the same boat here. So the McCarthy, this just feels like the kind of narrative that gets somebody fired, right? Like all of a sudden it's like you lose your offensive coordinator who, I didn't think was the best in the world, but he still had a lot of hype and a lot of people liked him. And I thought he did a pretty decent job. Like you said, the last 2 years they've had top 10 offenses in points per drive. So he's obviously doing something right. And then the head coach that nobody really likes is like, oh, I'll take the responsibility.
Right.
Like this feels like it's cooking for disaster. But I don't know. Like, is this, there's also an extent, like, I feel like this offense could be just like too good to be like fail. Like, I would be pretty surprised if this is like the 20th best offense in football. Like if it falls to like 12th, maybe.
I agree. I think we've always just disagreed on how much we like the Cowboys in general. You're always higher on them than I am. So I don't know. I think they should be good, but I think I could see it being an average offense if the play calling isn't there and maybe like one injury happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, the health obviously is too tough to gauge, but I'd be interested to see what their numbers were like without Pollard. But at the same time, he's going to be back there and he's terrific.
Yeah. Well, again, at least they'll start back there because again, injuries happen. That's part of, and that's maybe a little concerning is the depth, but we can get into that more when we get into our preview coming up before too long about the teams. But let's go to the Giants now. Giants, for me, I'm sticking with the coaching. My question is just how good is the coaching? I think it's good. It is good. It just, this one coach of the year, right? Brian Daboll did. The coaching was great last year. The question is how consistently great can it really be?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It wasn't my question, but at the same time, like we've seen a lot of coaches kind of be one-hit wonders. If you told me a few years ago, Kevin Stefanski's on the hot seat this year, that would be pretty surprising. But
right.
He is on the hot seat this year, right? And he obviously was coming off a coach of the year. So it was really impressive how they were kind of able to overcome a lot last year. But, I still don't think what a lot of people saw and a lot of people watched last year was, I don't think a lot of people thought that was a 9-10 win team,
Right.
And so how can they replicate that? Can they continue to win on those margins that I just feel like year to year, when you see teams win those kind of ways, it's a great season. It's a great story. It's great for the underdog story, but you just don't see that consistently year to year. And you don't see those teams bounce back and have awesome years the next year.
Yeah, I think my question, the way I'll phrase it, is like, okay, this is a team that realistically probably should have been like a 6-win team that ends up winning. I believe it was like 9.5 games because they had the tie, and then they won a playoff game as well. So the question is this a 10.5 win team? If that's what we believe to be the case, let's say this is a 6-win team that ended up being a 10.5 win team. How much of that 4.5 extra wins was due to coaching? Some of it obviously was, but how much of it was? And then how much of it was just luck is the question. Or did we maybe undervalue the talent last year? I think it's a combination of coaching and luck. And the question that I think we'll answer this year is how much can the coaching cause this team to do better?
Yeah. Or at least was it more coaching or more luck?
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that's answered. My question, which feels like it's a tale as old as time at this point with the Giants, is can we get anything out of the pass catchers? Because I do think the way they win 9 to 10 games this year, similar to last year, is they get increased production from their skill guys outside of Saquon, because that's the one thing that they basically lacked for what, 5 years now, 4 years now. So, and you know what? They haven't invested some in this. They invested in drafting, guys like Jalen Hyatt. I kind of like Bryce Ford Wheaton as, a late guy. You got Wan'Dale Robinson last year. You traded for Darren Waller. You got all these guys, but this also isn't the first time that the Giants have tried to invest in these positions to get them better. They just, before this, it was a first round pick on Kadarius Toney and a big money play for Galladay, and that didn't work. So
Right.
how does this work? And can you get this pass? Can you get anything out of this pass catching game? Because that's going to be how they win more games. That's how they win 10 games this year, is they get better pass catchers. Because I can tell you right now, if they play similar to the way they did last year, they're probably not going to win that many games and make the playoffs.
I have to say too, I'm kind of buying into Isaiah Hodgins. I don't know, only
Yeah.
24 years old. I thought it did show some really nice things last year. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of buying in.
There's a couple guys I like. I liked Wan'Dale last year. I mean, he's still
Mhm.
young, but I mean, I liked what he did last year. I still kind of like Darius Slayton. I just think that, he's been asked to do more than probably what his talent level is.
Mhm.
I could see Jalen Hyatt being good,
Mhm.
they brought in, Jamison Crowder, Paris Campbell. Like, these guys aren't terrible. And then obviously the biggest hope is that Waller, finds some footing again. And all of a sudden that's a pretty dangerous group. Not like elite, but that's a pretty good group if all those guys kind of work out. The only problem is that we've seen this not work out for the Giants multiple times in the past.
Yeah, I think Waller will be good as long as he stays healthy. I do have to say though, my last thing on this before we move on, what wide receiver would you say if he was on your team? Okay, we have a good number 3 guy in that receiver. Like, is there, maybe Slayton, maybe Hodgins, right?
Yeah, probably. I guess
Hmm.
Wandale, because you have that kind of speed factor, but that's about it.
Yeah, so that's kind of just where they're. But they have like 7 of those guys though, so that's why I'm intrigued by what they can do. I think it's a good one. Let's move on. The Washington football team. Kyle, where'd you go here?
I did go quarterback this time. Can
Okay.
Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell make a difference? Um, you know, they obviously took a swing on Carson Wentz last year. It didn't work. I am still of the belief that this is a good roster. I think that they got good defensive play last year. I think they got good defensive players still. I know they didn't do the 5th year on Chase Young, but there's still loads of potential there. You look at guys like Jonathan Allen's a stud. You look at guys like Montez Sweat's a stud. You look at the secondary. There's blue chippers all over there. Brian Robinson, I think, is going to be a pretty good back in this backfield. You look at, Dotson showed a lot his rookie year. McLaurin, he's a stud. Curtis Samuel's a really nice number 3. The Giants would love him as a number 3 if we're being honest. So
Yeah.
you're looking at all those guys, but the thing that has plagued this team for a couple of years now, similar to the Giants with the receivers, is the quarterback position, which is the most important position in football. And this is like, Cleveland obviously takes the cake in this. They own the tortured quarterback franchise
Hmm.
title belt, but Washington's not far off. And they
Hmm.
drafted 2 in 1 year. One of them won Offensive Rookie of the Year and looked like a franchise cornerstone. That
Hmm.
didn't work. They got Kirk Cousins for a few years. Good production out of Kirk Cousins. They're like, we don't really want to pay you still. So that didn't work. And they haven't replaced either of those guys. And those guys didn't turn out to be the long-term answer. They've continued to kind of play this game and, play the musical chairs with these quarterbacks. Will either of these guys be an answer?
Yeah, and not to mention, when they got rid of Kirk Cousins, they said, okay, well, Alex Smith, he'll be our good option. We're going to pay Alex Smith. We're trade a 2nd-round pick for him. He has them in playoff spot, and then has a horrible knee injury. This poor Washington, they won 3 Super Bowls, all with different quarterbacks. They can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's a truly bizarre situation. I mean,
Hmm.
you can go all the way back to like Jason Campbell and say that didn't work out. I mean, it's tough. It's tough that they haven't been able to figure out this position. Maybe the new ownership group, change of luck. You don't have a snake running the franchise, so that'll help.
Yeah. My biggest question, I want Chase Young. Chase
Yeah.
Young, who did not get his 5th-year option picked up. He was, I mean, he was getting Lawrence Taylor comparisons after year one, which
Yeah.
was unfair. That was probably a bit too, we got too excited there. I don't know if he had as great of a, first year as maybe some people hyped it up to be, but like, listen, every stat still had him as, a great first year. We have not seen him be able to replicate that since then. He struggled to stay healthy more than anything. I think that's been his biggest issue. I think he's been okay when he's been out there. So that's my biggest question going into 2023.
Yeah, I think he's a decent player. He just needs to be on the field. And I imagine what this defense could be too if he's healthy. Like, it could be a lead if he's healthy, because Sweat's really taken that leap. Sweat had a terrific season last year. And if you look at that group, it really could be dangerous if he's there. They just need to see it. And it's been tough. The injuries have been concerning. But I still think there's a ton of potential. I'm still betting on him to be pretty good. He felt like a can't miss prospect at the time, and I still think he's got that in him. I still think that's still his level of play is elite.
Mm-hmm. The Vikings are next on the list. The Vikings, I wrote same as Giants.
It felt like these two teams were so intertwined, and then they played each other in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I could tell you that it's a the things are gonna look a lot different this year. I just feel that way. They definitely capitalized on some luck last year, and that's okay. They won 13 games. They don't have to give any of those back, but they certainly were lucky in some extent. So I think a lot of that's going to catch up to them this year, and we're going to see how it looks. But maybe they catch a few breaks again and get a bunch of wins. I had as the defense fixable. I talked about this a couple weeks ago now, but I'm not buying into this defense being functional. Like Danielle Hunter, Marquise Davenport, cool. That's a nice duo. That's a really nice duo as far as edge rushers go. There's not really a lot of talent left. Harrison Smith is, they're going to have him out there on a walker sooner or later.
Probably. That was, it's still not not an effective player, but not what he once was. The question is, like, if Andrew Booth and Lewis Cine can step up, then it feels a little bit different. I don't know if that's going to fix it, but that would make a big difference.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. I mean, they really need that because I was pretty surprised that they let Peterson go. As much as I felt like it was kind of a fluke what he did last year, he was a productive player for them, and they didn't really replace him with productive players. So yeah, I mean, they really need these young guys to step up. But I think that's been kind of a problem with this defense for the last few years. Not to mention the older guys getting older. So it'll be interesting to see what this team looks like. But yeah, I mean, this is just the least exciting, like, solid team, isn't it? Like, obviously they're not a 13-win team, but luck adjusted, this is probably a 9-win team, but they're not an exciting 9-win team, which is surprising for a team that has Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I was gonna say Justin Jefferson's exciting, but yeah, that's pretty much that's a lot of what they have going for. I don't know. They'll win some games like 38-35 though. They'll play in some exciting games. I'll say that they're not an exciting team, but they'll play in some exciting games.
Yeah, I guess the other kind of like sneaky question is, like, they obviously cut some bait here with Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. Like, can these younger guys also kind of step into bigger roles? Like, I think Hawkinson's also obviously going to be a solid, good tight end. But like KJ Osborne kind of thrived in that third role, and he's probably moving up to number 2. You're looking at Addison as a rookie stepping into a bigger role too, although I think he should fit this offense perfectly. And then, I don't know, is it going to be Alexander Mattinson in the backfield? Is that what it's going to be?
Yeah, why not? He looks like Dalvin Cook anyway. Maybe just pretend like he's Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually looks like Dalvin Cook, but like the aesthetics when you're watching it, with helmets on, he looks like Dalvin Cook.
That's fair. So, yeah, I mean, that's just really what it's going to come down to, because I do think this offense is still going to be somewhat productive. But is it as good? Because they are going to win a lot less games if this offense isn't elite. Yeah,
definitely. The Detroit Lions. Speaking of, it kind of feels like it's obvious what the question is with the Lions a bit. It's to me, but I guess you can, phrase it different ways. I'm assuming we're both going to talk about the defense here. To me, it's just, will these new additions work out the way you want them to? Because, like, on paper, this defense looks like it could be massively improved. They went out and they added guys like Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. They added Jack Campbell at linebacker, who should be good. Like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, guys who can really help out the coverage unit, which desperately needs help because the pass rush is actually all right, but the rest is what needs help here. The question I have is just will they hit? Because we see it happen it's a tale as old as time. Team that gets a bunch of free agents now is ready to compete, but then the free agents don't hit the way you think they will, and then they still struggle.
Yeah. Basically, I said, can they live up to the hype? Like, I don't know if this team's a Super Bowl contender,
right?
And they're getting Super Bowl contender hype, which maybe they are. Maybe they do surprise us. Maybe they do look like that. I don't know if it's that level of a team, but there certainly is a pathway to this being a very good team. But like you said, I don't know. Like, defense is always interesting to me because year to year, it just feels like there's always a ton of variance. And how many times have we seen teams basically, patch together defenses like this? Like you were saying, whether it's free agency or through the draft, try and patch together a defense like this. And it's just like, oh, this worked. They're a top 10 defense now. They're a top 15 defense. This defense was horrible for a lot of years. They've invested a lot in it, and rightfully so because they needed it. But all those guys have to kind of get used to playing with each other. Everybody has to stay healthy for this to work because, it's not a perfect defense by any means. There's still a couple bad players, I think, that are going to get significant time on this team. And they really need them all kind of come together and this all to work.
Yeah. The other question I have that I, could have asked is like the sort of pass catchers outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, listen, it worked great last year, so we're assuming it's still going to work this year. But we don't know how repeatable last season is.
Yeah, that offense was obviously terrific. I thought Ben Johnson did a terrific job as well. I like, I like Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Jones. Those are good fits.
They're fine.
Yeah, it's just like can they be a number 2, which they're basically going to ask those guys to be, or whenever Jameson Williams comes back, can he be a number 2? Which I think we're all kind of betting on, but at the same time, I think you said it 2 weeks ago. We haven't seen him play, really all that much. He played a little bit last year,
one catch in his career.
Yeah, so we need to see a little more out of that. Obviously, the Jahmyr Gibbs pick was much maligned. But he should be a talented running back. Him and David Montgomery. We know David Montgomery at least is going to be good. So can this kind of all come together? It's almost the whole team. Can this all kind of come together the way that we expect it to? Or is it, too much hype too soon?
Yeah, you can picture it, right? You can picture you can picture if they win the Super Bowl, you can see how it can happen. The question is, it's just there's a lot of things that we haven't yet seen happen in Lions uniforms before I'm willing to say yeah, they're a contender.
Yeah, if this was like I'm trying to think of an example. If this roster, if they were the Steelers, would you be all in on them?
I wouldn't be all. I like to think that I don't really pay that much attention to the uniforms and pay attention to the players and the coaching and all that stuff.
We say that. I think it's
possibly subconsciously it would have changed something. I'll acknowledge that.
Yeah, I just feel like if there were Steelers uniforms in the Pittsburgh Steelers with the same coaches in roster, I think we'd be a little more all in on the Lions. Probably that's fair.
Yeah, possibly.
But it is Detroit, and you know what? They're gonna have to prove it. So we'll see. I definitely I agree. There is a pathway to this team being good. I think
we're all rooting for them to be good.
Yeah, of course.
Who is rooting against the Lions? Unless you're in that division, you have to be a psychopath.
Yeah. Or just a hater of fun, I guess.
Yeah, maybe if you're a hater of fun, maybe if you're the NFL equivalent of the Grinch, then you're rooting against the Lions.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. Can Goff be that good again? Can all this kind of work? It'll be a fascinating season. Everyone's gonna watch this team. Like this is the most hyped Lions season in
ever
since
ever.
I was trying to think.
They're winning NFL championships.
Yeah. But I was trying to think, was there a Stafford Johnson season where oh yeah, this is it? But I don't even think there was that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Because interesting stuff. The Packers. I have Jordan Love as the biggest question.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's a lot of interesting questions you could ask. Like this, I feel like I was going through this and I was like, I feel like I could ask the most questions about the Packers than any team in this, legitimately. Because not, you could ask like, what the heck happened to the offensive line last year? What the heck happened to this defense last year? Are they going to get anything out of the Christian Watson, Quay Walker draft combo? Can that all be better? I know Christian Watson kind of came on, but it wasn't the most consistent production, I will say, even though I'm still a Christian Watson fan. So, but yeah, I mean, this all comes down to that this year is about evaluating Jordan Love and if he's the guy. This team hasn't had bad quarterback play in 27 years. I'm trying to think.
Well, I think it's longer than that. I think we're talking over because I believe Rodgers played 18 years and Favre played 17 years, right? So we're talking like 35 years.
Favre
or I guess,
played 18.
but Favre didn't play 17, or he played 17 with the Packers, I believe.
Yeah, maybe that sounds right. Either way, they haven't had bad quarterback play in a really long time. You're looking like 90s football is the last time the Packers had bad quarterback play. So, or at least, if somebody was hurt, they at least knew that there was something on the horizon that was good quarterback play, So this is going to be an awkward phase if Jordan Love doesn't work out, because then they got to figure out a way to find their next quarterback, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to evaluating Jordan Love and if it's going to work out for him or not. That's the biggest question.
I mean, you could argue the biggest question of this season is Jordan Love. I mean, think about how much of a narrative the Jordan Love pick has been. There's never been more pressure on a player, probably since Aaron Rodgers, to succeed with this Jordan Love situation. I mean, as it stands right now, the narrative of the Packers is the Jordan Love selection. If they could have gotten T. Higgins, which might have won them multiple Super Bowls after that selection. Because I think they beat San Francisco in that playoff game if they have T. Higgins, and I think they beat Tampa Bay in that playoff loss if they have T. Higgins. Who knows if they go on to win either of those Super Bowls, but that would have certainly helped. And instead, they went with Jordan Love, which also ran Aaron Rodgers out of town. I mean, the sunk cost currently with the Jordan Love selection is pretty steep. If he hits and is a star, all is forgiven. But if he's not, it could go down as one of the worst draft picks of all time, which is why I think it's such a question.
Yeah. Sunk more than the Titanic, if you will.
We don't need to talk about that.
Fair enough. Just trying to get the the plug in. Obviously, got to get more viewers talking about the Titanic. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Jordan Love. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. That is a huge gamble. We've gone through the history of it, the repercussions. All of it hasn't worked out. But that being said, like, if he's good, this isn't a bad team, theoretically. Like, especially if the defense gets better than it was last season, which on paper, the defense should, we were talking before the season if this is the best defense in football, and it was a disaster. If this defense is healthy and everything works out this year, this could be a contender if Jordan Love's good. We need to see that. We need to see him on the field doing that.
Yeah, one of the bigger boomer bust teams out there. Also, going back to the Titanic point, when you made the Titanic point, were you talking about the submarine that went down, or were you just talking about the Titanic in general?
The submarine, yeah.
Okay, well, the way you phrased it almost made me seem like this was an unrelated Titanic reference, which threw me off.
No, I was talking about the submarine. Okay, yeah. I guess I should have said the Titanic submarine.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for the people on there, even if it was kind of stupid.
Yeah, there's a really gross this is a tangent. Now we're all in here. There's a really gross let's eat the rich, they deserve to die campaign that I think is just weird. Weird. Heaven forbid people successful spend money. Oh my gosh, how dare they? Right. Any of us, if we actually had real money, would be solving all the world's problems. You wouldn't be. You'd be on ridiculous vacations as well. That being said, looking at the situation, analyzing the facts, this seems like a really dumb way to spend money. That's my only point.
It's a little funny that they use a PlayStation 2 controller to control the thing. It's a little
Yeah.
funny. I'll acknowledge there's some humor there, but yeah, it's there's dark humor there.
Yeah. I mean, they don't get to look at the Titanic. They're watching it on a video. Like,
Uh
why even go down to the ocean at that point?
yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I fully get it. But thoughts with the family.
Yeah,
Family.
of course.
Yeah.
Except for that weird guy who went to the Blink 182 concert.
Oh yeah.
That was a whole nother story about this. That I don't have thoughts for him. That guy just seems off the rails.
All right. Speaking of off the rails, let's get back on the rails. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
Tangent. Yeah.
Yeah. The Bears, I have the downfield passing attack, and then I have in parentheses, not just Fields, because obviously we always talk about through Fields and lens, but it wasn't just Fields. They now went out and they added DJ Moore. They're making a clear effort to get better at this. It's one of those things where, like, on paper, this receiving core could actually be pretty good. I mean, you have DJ Moore, you have Chase Claypool, you have Darnell Mooney. That even like someone like Ecomania St. Brown, I like as a fourth option for sure. Cole Kmet, I think, is good. Even Robert Tonyan could be an interesting flyer. This is something that on paper has real potential. And again, we have to see how Fields can develop as a passer. We already know what he can do as a rusher, but hey, his running ability will help the passing game work as well. So very fascinated how this works out.
I agree with this. I said, can the passing game get better? And also, what happens if the passing game doesn't get better? I think that's also a big question, because is it going to be blamed on Fields? Is it going to be blamed on someone else? I have done my. I don't want to say I've been a hater of Justin Fields this offseason, but I've said, like, let's cool the brakes a little bit on a guy who's like the 30th best passer in football, rating wise and all that kind of stuff. But I also am willing to admit the last 2 years, you had a quarterback you drafted who was very much viewed as a developmental project, especially as a passer. You had a young offensive line, which wasn't very good a couple years ago, and you didn't have pass catchers. And then you said, Justin Fields, be good. That's not exactly the most fair situation. So their offensive line's a lot better now. These younger guys that they've drafted have gotten pretty good. They've invested in the receiving core now. Like you said, I thought the trade back from 1 to 9, I thought they got a good haul, and DJ Moore's a solid, really good receiver. Komet's a nice tight end. Claypool, I think they overpaid for him a little bit, but he's still a solid receiver as well. There's a lot of pieces there that they're going to work with. So it'll come down to, can there be development in this group? And, is it going to be all on Fields to get better? Like you said, I don't think it's just him, but yeah, I mean, I think that they got to prove themselves in that regard.
Yeah. I also the JS in the chat says Bears defense is the biggest concern for me. I think it's probably the biggest concern. I don't have it as a question though, because I think I feel pretty confident it's going to be bad next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good defense. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if this offense scores points. But yeah, I don't think you can win football games if you can't throw anymore. I just think it's non-negotiable at this point. This is the modern NFL. You're not winning. It's not 1975. You're just not going to win those games that way, I think. So they have to show development in the passing game.
But I kind of feel like in some ways that's also my point. I think my counter argument would be that it's not 1975 and it's 2023 where you can be a running quarterback and have success. I mean, Fields is the weirdest quarterback in NFL history. I've never seen a quarterback that you have people legitimately saying he's not going to work in the NFL level and people saying he's an MVP candidate. I mean, I've never seen that happen before in my life with the way it happens with Fields. I thought last year he worked for the most part. Like, I think he was a top 32 quarterback in football last year, I thought, with all things considered. The question is just, how much can it work? Can it win you a championship that way? Probably not. Almost certainly not. You have to at least be able to develop as a passer to get to that level.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, you draft a quarterback in the first round to build around for a championship and to be better than a top 32 quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
That's just the nature of the business. So, when it comes to evaluating Fields, you have to evaluate it as a guy. Is he on the trajectory to be something, more than a top 32 quarterback? But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see to watch this year. This is another team that I think is going to be a fascinating watch. I just think that they're not going to win a lot of games, which is fine because I don't think they have to win a lot of games yet.
Yeah, very fascinating where they go. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are probably sinking like the submarine Titanic thing, the way that these past couple years have gone. My biggest question is Devin White. What are we going to see with Devin White? He wanted to trade. Tampa Bay decided not to trade him, which I think was a mistake. But I mean, listen, Devin White has never been as good as the hype maybe had indicated, but he did have a really good postseason run and felt like if he showed flashes and had potential to develop into a great player and just has yet to develop in that way. I'm just fascinated in seeing with Devin White, can he get it all together or is this just who he is?
Yeah. There hasn't really been has there been a worse player to request a trade? I guess
I'm
N'Keal Harry kind of, but like, I don't know. Like, obviously, it's been a few years since he's been really, really good. I still believe in the talent level, but yeah, like you said, he just hasn't really put it together, which is alarming because everybody else has seemed to put it together in this defense.
Right.
And so he kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in that regard. So yeah, I mean, obviously, he is a big question for this defense because they were special in the years that he was pretty good. And it looked like he was on track to be really, really good. But now it's, I think the defense has slipped because he's made a lot of mistakes and other guys have made mistakes too. It's not all Devin White making mistakes, but they are still a good defense and he can make it elite. He can make it one of the best defenses in football with his talent level. I just had in general, like, does this team consider blowing it up? Like, I don't know. Like, obviously there's still really talented players here. And young talented players too. But like, what is the
Did we lose Kyle for a second? Kyle's frozen on my end. I'm assuming. Let me know in the chat. Is this my end or Kyle's end? Because that's how we can't tell whose side it's on. But Kyle, are you there? Okay, you're back.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. I got like I don't know what's going on, but anyway. But yeah, I just the off I don't know if this team can cobble together 8 or 9 wins with Baker Mayfield, but I don't think they're bad enough to be like number 1 pick range either because there's too many good players.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if it's I just don't think they're going to though. I think they're going to try to compete. I think they want to be successful this year. And to me, I'm like, okay, fine. Let's try to make the playoffs. Playoffs are cool. I like being in the playoffs. I don't need, I'm still the Bucs being good is still a relatively new thing for me. I really enjoyed it. I don't want it to end just yet. If we can try to compete and win 7 games, win the NFC South that way, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And not to mention, I've said this before. I don't think you need to like completely tank to be successful in the NFL. I don't think it's the same in the way as the NBA because you can get good players in the draft to pick 20, But, it starts with the quarterback position. And right now I'm not convinced in their quarterback spots. So that's going to be the biggest part of this is can they get to the position to get a good quarterback, whether it's in the draft or something like that. And if they don't feel like they're good enough to compete, do you keep some of the older guys around? I feel like Mike Evans could get a lot on the block if they wanted to, and he's not their youngest guy, so it'll be interesting questions to ask.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of young quarterbacks, my thing is how do they build around Bryce Young? I think one thing that's kind of underratedly concerning for Carolina. People have talked about them as a potential playoff contender, but I think I get it. If Bryce Young comes in and has a good rookie year, that could be enough to get them to win the South. But because I like their defense, but there's the offensive line solid. I like the offensive line. I would say it's a solid offensive line, but the receiving core is concerning to me. I like DJ Chark, but is he a number 1 option? I don't know. Are we going back to Laviska Shenault, number 1 wide receiver range? He is there. You have Adam Thielen, who was not good last year. I didn't think. Does Terrence Marshall Jr. or Shi Smith step it up? This year they drafted Jonathan Mingo, but there's a way this could bottom out, and that would be concerning. You got Ian Thomas, everyone's favorite Ian Thomas. But like, I have some concerns here with this roster.
Yeah, I had said, can they get open for Bryce Young? And it's the same, kind of the same regard. Because, yeah, I mean, I understand why they made the trade. Obviously, you're not getting Bryce Young unless you make that trade. So, it wouldn't have mattered. But at the same time, like, Moore has been pretty steady with a lot of bad quarterbacks year in and year out. And I understand why they traded Christian McCaffrey last year. They got a really nice haul for a running back. But that was another guy who was, when he was healthy, was pretty steady and really good for this offense too. You don't have either of those guys now, And Chark's a nice player. I don't think he's a number one. He's a fringe number two. Thielen, I do think, can do some nice things in the red zone, but at the same time, it's unrealistic to ask for 2018 Adam Thielen. And Miles Sanders is Miles Sanders. He is what it is. Hayden Hurst is nice too, but yeah, I mean, can they get enough separation from this kind of hodgepodge of guys to, make your young quarterback, make it easy on your young quarterback? Because as much as we like Bryce Young and as much as we think he's talented and has a good framework to be successful, you need to generate some easy throws for rookie quarterbacks. And right now, it's hard to see those easy completions for this team.
Yeah, we've talked about before how the biggest indicator of future success for young quarterbacks is situation they're brought into, and it's not the worst situation in the world, but it could be better.
Yeah, 100%. That being said, like, I don't know, like, would it shock you if like Terrence Marshall Jr. is a little bit better and DJ Chark's a solid player and Adam Thielen finds a little bit of the fountain of youth and it's okay and it works? It wouldn't shock me. But I also could see it like they have a bunch of third and longs because guys can't get open, and they're like a 3-win team again.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Let's move on. How about the New Orleans Saints? Well, what's your biggest question for the Saints?
Let's see. What did I have for the Saints? Is this team good enough to reach that next level? Because obviously they kind of zagged when everyone was like, okay, this is kind of a transition year for a lot of teams. Carolina obviously went with the rookie quarterback. Atlanta's kind of building their roster to set themselves up for a quarterback, it seems like. Tampa Bay obviously loses Tom Brady, so you probably take him out of the Super Bowl discussion there. And we've kept waiting for the Saints to kind of kick this can down. They've been kicking this can for the salary cap down the road, but instead they're like, let's just get good again. They go and get a guy like Derek Carr, who is an upgrade to everybody they had at quarterback. And then all of a sudden you look at this roster and it's like, you know what? It's not really that bad. Like they still should have a really good defense. They got some decent players on the offensive line. The interior is a little concerning. Kamara is still Alvin Kamara. Chris Olave had a terrific rookie season. Blink if you heard this before. Maybe you get something out of Michael Thomas. But all of a sudden, it's like maybe the Saints team's pretty good. But to what end is the Saints team pretty good?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted for a second. I had the Kamara, Michael Thomas, Eric McCoy, and Cameron Jordan were my biggest question. But those four together, there's four players who, like, we've seen them be good, just not last year, and not really, not what they can be these past. So that's kind of my question. My biggest question is, what can they do? Also, I gotta let my cat out because he's just being a menace right now. He just won't stop meowing at the door. So give me 1 second.
I heard the cat, so there we go. I mean, I agree with that because these guys aren't getting any younger. It's not like they're getting any better at this point in their careers. So yeah, I mean, we're probably to the point where it's pretty close to where Alvin Kamara slips a little bit as a running back, or Cameron Jordan. I think Cameron Jordan did slip a little bit last season. He wasn't quite as good as his best level. And who knows what we're getting out of Michael Thomas. That's a big question. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, there is a chance that the Saints team's good. Like, I'm not denying that because there are good players here. But I just don't know if it's ever going to be – I don't know if it's good enough to make this, like, worthwhile. And it just seems like that it feels like they kicked the can down the road again for a 10-win team this time. And I just I'm wondering if that's worth it.
Yeah. And I do wonder though, it's like, is it the worst strategy in the world? Hey, the division looks really bad. Let's just get Derek Carr, who does have a tendency to sometimes show up in big moments, and see if we can get hot basically take what appears to be a guaranteed playoff spot and maybe hope we can get hot at the right time?
No, it's not a bad idea. You know,
Mhm.
you sell tickets, you're a competitive team, you get a playoff game maybe out of it because you're the 4 seed.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the worst strategy in the world.
Better than whatever the hell the Raiders are doing right now.
That is true. We made fun of the Raiders too much last week. We can't do it again with them. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad strategy at all. It's just, you know, at what point do you say, okay, maybe we need to revamp some of this, you know? Because, you know, those guys you mentioned, they're all kind of older now, you know? Is possibly letting a guy like Cameron Jordan go or Michael Thomas go worth it to let some of these younger guys come in and take their place and, you know, kind of start over?
Yeah, definitely interesting to see where they go. The Atlanta Falcons, I just put Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is the biggest question.
I had the same question. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't even think he was that bad last year is the thing. I guess, can they utilize Kyle Pitts? Can they, you know, the thing is, like I said, I didn't think he was bad last year, but when you draft him where you draft him, you need better than not bad. And
Mhm.
can they utilize him better? Can they put him in mismatches? Now, the biggest issue they had last year is outside of Drake London, they didn't really have anybody that could be, you know, take attention away from Pitts, right? But
Mhm.
now, like, you look at this roster, obviously Bijan's going to get a ton of carries, and you're hoping that in the play action game opens up Pitts a little more to more success. And, you know, if you have him and London become, you know, really good to elite pass catchers, all of a sudden that's a pretty potent duo for Atlanta with the addition of Robinson in the backfield too, to where this offense could actually be really, really dangerous and kind of fits that Arthur Smith mold of what they want to do.
Yeah, and listen, and I thought about like, okay, do I want to go like quarterback here? I don't think the Falcons are going to be good next year. I still think they're
Yeah.
still in the rebuilding process. I do, and so like maybe it'll be a great situation for Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ritter to thrive. I don't know what the value is, but that's kind of why I feel like if Kyle Pitts comes in and is great, and then you have Bijan and Tyler Algier as the great 1-2 punch, with obviously Drake London who can play at a great level as well. To me now, it's like, okay, this feels like a great situation with a good offensive line who is just now a quarterback away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I fully believe this offense can be good. I think the defense has some questions too. You know, we didn't really talk about it, but like
Mhm.
they invested a lot in some of these guys too. Obviously, you know, Jesse Bates was the big one. Um, and you know, I could see a pathway to where Jesse Bates is obviously, you know, fixes some of the things on the back end. Okuda and Terrell are a good corner duo. That works. Maybe Mike Hughes is the third guy, gets a little better this season. He had a good 2021. That's another guy. Maybe, you know, Bud Dupree, you know, we're not the biggest Bud Dupree fans here, but maybe he provides a little bit pass rush to help those guys too, that this defense is better, but I don't expect it to be good either. So, I mean, can they get good at either side of the ball? And is it, you know, can they develop some of these younger guys on their team too? Because there's still a lot of young talent here.
Yeah, completely agree. The 49ers, I went Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy to me is the biggest question of, I don't know if he's going to start. So I guess I should say quarterback room. But to me, the quarterbacks in general of can they get really, can they just get like decent quarterback play and have them stay healthy for a year? Please, let it happen. Why are the gods cruel towards 49ers quarterbacks?
Yeah. I did say who plays quarterback and doesn't matter. Um,
Hmm.
but like, yeah, I mean, when it comes to this team being a Super Bowl contender, they're gonna need good quarterback play. You know, they could probably get by with Shanahan's brilliance for the regular season, even maybe a
Hmm.
playoff game or two, but they need good quarterback play at the end of the season. And, you know, once Purdy got hurt, that kind of changed the entire team last year. This team is built to win a Super Bowl. The roster is built to win a Super Bowl. Their coaching staff is built to win a Super Bowl. Everything about this team screams Super Bowl contender. They need to get at the quarterback spot, whether it's Brock Purdy or whether it's Trey Lance. One of those guys has to prove themselves.
Yeah. For me, I would let Brock Purdy be the guy. Like, I would go into the camp if he's healthy. To me, I would have him start the off season as quarterback one, just because of what he did last year. I thought he was not like amazing, but I thought he was good. I thought he was like legitimately good.
Yeah, I mean he played like a top 15 quarterback last year, right?
Yeah. They never lost
So
to him. He never got beat. They lost the one game when he was injured. That's it.
yeah, I mean it's undoubtedly like he can be good.
Hmm.
That being said, like I don't know, you still invested a lot in Trey Lance. Do you give him another chance to get healthy? Like it wasn't like he was terrible or anything when he played. He was just hurt. So
Hmm.
I mean, I think he gets another chance too, right?
I think really what you do is you say it's an open competition, and whoever looks better in preseason and in training camp, that's the guy who gets the start. But I'm saying someone has to start with first team reps. Maybe you even split it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, George Kittle said Trey Lance was looking good. Players never lied about a
Oh,
player in training camp, so no worries
training
there.
camp, training camp reports are not canon, Kyle.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Let's move on. Seattle Seahawks. I just wrote young players. I think there's so many young players that had more high draft picks. With getting Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Jigba in this most previous draft in the first round. Just can these young players step up and beat I like what Abraham Lucas did. I thought Charles Cross wasn't a mess. He wasn't Evan Neal, right? But like he was maybe underwhelming still as one of the big three tackles. He kind of, I thought that Ikwanyu kind of really came on towards the end of the year and looked pretty good for Carolina. Evan Neal was a mess, and Charles Cross was kind of somewhere in between those two. So I'm interested in seeing just these young players in general for Seattle who look very promising. Can they take that next step to be cornerstone franchise pieces and maybe allow Seattle to take that next step and go from being a playoff team to a real contender?
Yeah, and obviously they want to get to that contender status, which they could, but a lot does need to work out. They threw those tackles into the fire last year. They said we're starting 2 rookie offensive tackles. That felt bold. It obviously worked a little bit. They obviously won 9 games, so it worked good enough. They need those guys to get a little bit better, though. I agree. Yeah, and then I mean, you look at Witherspoon has a ton of hype. He's going to play right away. He's going to start right away at cornerback. Can he live up to that hype? It's going to be tough in year 1, I think. But can he do it for year 1, year 2, year 3? Can he get it together? Smith and Jigba's probably going to have a pretty big role in early on. So, like you said, those guys, and I would even look at someone like Tariq Woolen had a really good rookie year for rookie corner standards, right? It was terrific rookie year for rookie corner standards, but they're preparing for him to be the number 1 guy, and is he ready to step into that spot and be that guy? So yeah, I think those young players are a really good question. It's going to be interesting to see how they approach the season with those guys.
Yeah. Did you? What was your question?
Jamal Adams.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
they get anything out of this guy? They've invested a lot in him. And for all the things that they did well last year, and the Seahawks did have a good year. They were a terrible run defense, which is not something we were prepared for because they usually are a good run defense. And, for all of Adams' faults, he's definitely not afraid to come up and tackle guys. So, can he help fix that run defense? Can they get something out of him? Because I think it's easy to hate on him because honestly, I think when a safety gets burnt, it probably looks worse than anything on the field, right? Like,
yeah.
Like it's easy to make fun of safeties, and he talks a lot, so it's easy to make fun of him. But
Right.
he's undoubtedly a good player. Like I do think he is a good football player. So can they get anything out of him? Can he be a productive player in this spot? And can they kind of revitalize him?
Yeah, it's one of the more baffling things that happen because like Adams, I think, is clearly a very good player when used properly and just has been used in a very weird way with Seattle. And we all thought going in, right when that trade happened, why are you doing this? This is a weird fit. And then people in Seattle said, "Don't worry, we're going to change we're not doing just our traditional cover 3 zone anymore. We're mixing it up." Okay, guess what? The way you mix it up, he's still just sitting out there playing zone coverage on 95% of snaps, which is like not what he does well. So it's still a weird fit. I don't get why they haven't just like traded Jamal. Why haven't they just traded Jamal Adams to Tampa Bay? Right? Doesn't that just make reunite him with Todd Bowles? That just feels like it makes too much sense not to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think Tampa Bay would probably take their safeties over him right now, right?
Maybe they could find a place for him.
Devin White for Jamal Adams.
Honestly, wouldn't that be? Yeah, that should happen.
Yeah, there's the the fan trade speculation of let me trade my problem for your solution. This is let me trade my problem for your problem.
Yeah, I like it though. I think I don't know if Devin White would fully work in Seattle. That would be a question mark. But I think Adams. It doesn't have to be Tampa Bay. Why hasn't he gone to one of those like schemes like that? It seems like it would be a perfect fit.
Yeah, I would agree. But I also think he could be good in Seattle, even though it's a weird fit, because I
Sure.
just think he's good. He needs to stay healthy though, and they, need to utilize him a little bit better. His best stint with the Seattle, he was a defensive end, basically.
Right.
You shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. I was even thinking like I don't know what are the Giants? Wouldn't that be a great fit? He would be great there.
Yeah, he would.
But I guess at this point it's sunk cost fallacy. They don't want to do it. But that's a good question. I'm interested in seeing what he does. Do you have any final thoughts on that, or do you want to move on?
No, let's move on.
Yeah. Two teams left. We have the Rams. So I just put in my notes everything, but I feel like I should elaborate a little bit on what I mean by that. The Rams' philosophy has been they do what they can to get the star players, and then they get a bunch of draft picks. They don't have their first round picks, so they trade down a bunch of times. They get a bunch of different draft picks, and then they can just get depth that way. And that's how they won a Super Bowl, was in large part with that strategy. So it's an effective strategy. Now, the issue is, Ramsey's not there anymore. Aaron Donald's a little bit older. Matthew Stafford's a little bit older, certainly. But I think my biggest question is how many of these 14 draft picks that they just had, how many of these, tons of, mediocre level prospects, how much of them can step up and kind of fill out this depth that was a big issue last year? And then also, if Donald and Stafford stay healthy, this should be a better team. But I don't think it can be a good team unless a bunch of those guys come through and step up.
And Cup stays healthy too.
Yeah, right.
That's their 3 stars.
Yeah, right.
So you got your 3 stars there. They need everything else to work bad. I mean, yeah, I just don't know. Like you were playing. You're gonna play what? 2 second-year corners on the outside. It looks like it's gonna be what? Darion Kendrick and Kobe Durant. At
That's
corner.
tough.
Yeah, that's a bad duo. We just said Chicago's gonna be bad. This could be a bad defense that has Aaron Donald on it. Like a really bad defense that has Aaron Donald on it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of questions. I basically said, is star power still enough for this franchise? And, I mean, quite honestly, if I'm answering it now, I don't think it is, because I do not think there's enough talent here to overcome that. They need some serious development. And I still think some of these guys, if even they're going to be good at all, are multiple years away. I think it feels like they should be closer to considering trading Stafford than they are to looking at being competitive.
Well, I think I tweeted a little bit that I feel like the Rams and Lions should just trade Stafford and Goff back for each other.
Yeah, I bet Lions fans said no.
Yeah, they were not thrilled with that. I think it wouldn't be the worst idea for the Lions. I'd rather have Stafford than Goff.
Yeah, I would too. If he's healthy, obviously, but yeah, right. I would too. Obviously, Kupp's still terrific, Donald's still terrific, but I just don't think there's enough on this team. This feels like a 3 or 4 win team.
It is, and that's why I'm fascinated by it. Because, like, again, could they get some of these guys to just step up and be like solid role players on the roster? And then if they can do that, then I don't know. Could we see a Sean McVay masterclass? Like, could we see McVay find a way? We haven't really seen him coach a bad team that has a healthy quarterback. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen him coach, last year, they just had no quarterback. What are you going to do? We can't blame the coach for that. But, if Stafford is healthy and this is the roster, what can McVay do with that? I'm weirdly interested in this Rams team, even if they might not be very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see it. I just don't think it's going to work out. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. They would need some serious, development, because I don't know, even if you have those 3 guys, if everybody else on this team, if all other doing math at the top of my head, 19 replace all of the 19 starters on offense and defense became just replacement level, is this a good team?
Probably not a good team, but maybe they could win a few games.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I don't think they can just be role players. They need they need like 3 or 4 of these guys to really hit and be good. And I don't
Mhm.
know if any of these guys are like good. I don't
Well,
know.
I guess here's the way that it could be successful is if if Cooper Cup is elite again, you have Van Jefferson, and if you can get like one other option, I think maybe it's Tutu Atwell stepping up. I don't know. Maybe Ben Skowronek finally puts it all together. I don't see a scenario where that happens. But if one other weapon comes, I know Tyler Higbee's all right. If the offense can
Yeah.
come through, I think the offensive line should be good. They have a couple issues on the interior, but it's not a terrible offensive line. And McVay can kind of be a really good play caller. Then maybe this could be a pretty good offense. And in defense, as we all talk about, it's fluky. Maybe you could luck into it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's the pathway.
Yeah, that would be the pathway, but it's, a exceedingly unrealistic pathway.
Sure, of course. Mhm.
Keep an eye on Puka Nacua, though. I like that guy. BYU receiver, rookie. Let's make it happen. Puka
Okay.
Nacua and Cooper Kupp. That's the new duo. You got Cam Akers, who had a actually pretty good year when he played. So you got there's something there, but I mean, this offensive line still feels like it's not going to be very good. We'll see. We'll see. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah, it's inconsistent, that offensive line. There's some good pieces, but it has I don't know. Maybe Steve Avila, who they drafted early in the second round, can come through. Who knows? JS says at least they drafted that 30-year-old quarterback from Georgia. That's always good.
Yeah, I thought he was worth the gamble, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I guess let me ask you this: what do you think's the most likely scenario between these two? The Rams win 8 games, so just under 500. Or the Rams are the worst record in football. If you could pick right now, looking at this roster, what would you pick?
and I'm assuming you mean 8 or more games, not exactly 8, right?
Yeah, 8 or more, or worst record in football.
It's probably I think I would lean towards 8 or more games. Maybe I'm just a big Rams fan. I just feel like with Matthew, assuming they stay healthy, assuming the big 3 stays healthy, I feel like a team with Stafford, Kupp, and Donald will win enough games to be better than Houston.
Yeah, they did win 5 games, but
Mhm.
they also had a few other guys on the team that are now not there.
Yeah, but they were also those guys were all banged up too.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating. Like you said, this isn't going to be a fun watch, but it's something it's something you want to see, right?
Yeah.
It's like a car crash.
Definitely. Yeah, man.
Or
Rams have to be.
Yeah, or a tube sinking down to the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, you can't help but look away. It's crazy to think too. Like if I don't know, if Cooper Kupp doesn't make that play at the end of the Tampa Bay divisional round, and Tampa Bay finishes off the comeback and wins, and I have a much better year that year, is this a? I mean, we're talking about this as an all-time disaster where the Rams are at.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would. They went all out for that and didn't win it. And you mean that play though, where Todd Bowles sent the house?
I think. Your microphone cut out. Don't know what happened. Microphone cut out with Kyle. Don't know how that happened. Okay, you're back. Let's move on. The Cardinals. Cardinals are here. Kyle, what is your last team? The Cardinals. What's your biggest question with them?
My question was, what happens if Kyler Murray is good?
Yeah, I have Kyler Murray. I don't get how it can't be Kyler Murray. I mean, this team's going to be terrible next year. There's so many holes on this roster. I shouldn't say it's going to be terrible. Okay, I'm sure the most diehard Cardinals fan has found the reason why they're actually going to be great next year. And you know what? There are things to like on this roster. I think there's too many holes. I think they're going to be bad next year. But if Kyler is good, you still come away from just saying, you know what? We got a quarterback. We have the Texans' first-round pick somehow. We have our own first-round pick. We can build for the future. And they'd be in a pretty good spot if Kyler looks like Kyler just from 2 years ago. It was just 2 years ago that asking is Kyler good, it was an insane question to ask. Of course he was good. But he wasn't great last year. He just wasn't. Yeah. And, got banged up again, started to become a trend with him. So it's like, I just want to see Kyler back to being Kyler at his best. Because when he's at his best, he's one of the most exciting quarterbacks to watch in the league.
Yeah, I still think about that Raiders game last year where he had those multiple plays at like the goal line where he's just running around for 20 seconds and nobody can touch him. Nobody can touch him. And he goes and scores. Yeah. It's just one of that's still like, I still think of that guy and I'm like, man, if you could just get that all the time, If you could just
Mhm.
harness that into a weekly thing, like this is the kind of guy who could drag teams to wins, but he's just not that consistently enough. And then obviously the injury stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, what if it's a healthy Kyler Murray that performs at like a top 10 quarterback level, but you still only win like 4 or 5 games, and the Texans get the worst record in football. So you have the number
Mhm.
1 pick, and you probably have another top 10 pick.
Uh-huh.
Like, are you trying to maximize your trade value of Kyler there? And then you're taking Caleb Williams? Are you trading the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams because Kyler played at a top 10 level for one season? Like, what do you do if Kyler is like good enough, but not like, superstarish?
Right. That's probably the worst case. Not the worst case. The worst case scenario is like the Texans like win the Super Bowl next year and that pick ends up not being as good as you thought it would be. But
You don't have to
the
worry about that.
yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you're probably all right there. But like the worst case scenario, assuming they still get like pick 1 and 7, let's say, is that Kyler is like 10th best. You either want him to be show the MVP candidate Kyler Murray again, or like have him just suck, and then you can just say, okay, you know what, we'll just move on from him, draft a new guy.
Yeah. It'll just be interesting because, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a fun team to watch. There's a couple of young guys that are interesting. But, not anything to get really enthusiastic about unless it's Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, if Kyler went down week 1, I would not. I think I wouldn't make a single Cardinals video all year long.
Nothing on like Buda Baker.
I think maybe I do like a Paris Johnson video at some point potentially, just to see where he's at.
Yeah. Oh man, Rondell Moore breakout season.
Sure.
No.
Yeah. Could Marquise Brown, don't call him Hollywood Brown, finally take that next step from instead of being a solid number 2, being a good number 2?
Yeah, probably not.
What's the second biggest question for the Cardinals?
Oh man,
Coaching?
Think about this. Do you want me to do my coaching tangent again, Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, I guess I don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can you make a defensive coordinator who did absolutely nothing for 17 games last year and make him a good head coach? We'll see.
I'm higher on it than you are. I think it's going to be okay. I mean, they're going to be terrible next year.
I'm usually the pro defensive coordinator coaching thing.
Mhm.
I'm not. That's usually that's your antithesis.
Mhm.
I just wish he threw a little bit or mixed up the coverages a little bit.
Is it the perfect fit to have Colt McCoy as the backup for the Cardinals because he's good for exactly 1 game every year?
Yeah, and not to mention we get excited when Colt McCoy's in.
Yeah, I just like that he's in the league. I don't know.
Everyone loves Colt McCoy. Like
Yeah,
he is one of the most. I guess unless he didn't even win a national title, so it's not like anyone who lost to him in the national championship game could get like anti Colt McCoy,
right?
Because he got hurt in the title game.
Mhm.
I think we all just enjoy Colt McCoy and think about in the burnt orange playing college football. That was almost peak college football.
Yeah, it's just one of those guys you just like to see wander out there. That is our show. Kyle, let them know. We'll do a little bit of post-show stuff, but let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we get to that.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grana, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yeah, make sure you follow that because when we mix the times up, which happens sometimes we do not do our typical Wednesdays at 5 Eastern show time. So if we don't, definitely make sure you're following that page so that on Twitter, so that way you can find out when we change stuff, the updates and all that stuff. If you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get the audio only, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline podcast. It'll be available there. Make sure you check that out. Sometimes I'm a bit slow on getting them out there just because I forget to upload them. That's a user error by me. So if that ever happens, feel free to tweet at me telling me that the podcast isn't up. I will put it up for you. But yeah, Kyle, that's your show.
Yeah, good stuff again. We got just a couple more weekends until the NFL season. We got NBA draft tomorrow, so that should be fun.
Oh,
a lot going on.
Who's going first?
Who?
Yeah,
are you serious?
I think they're gonna take that guy that everyone says is like super good.
Yeah, he.
Okay.
I think I saw you could bet like I think I saw you could bet like $100 to win like three cents or something like that. It's something ridiculous.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he's going first.
I might put $10 on the other end of that, right? I don't know. What if there's like a one of those like gas mask situations?
It would he could the NBA doesn't even test for weed anymore. But
Gotcha.
he could be, he could run around a mall with like multiple guns in his pocket or something like that and still go first overall.
What would he have to do? Get lost, stuck in a submarine? Would that be the only way he wouldn't be drafted first overall?
I don't think he could fit in that submarine.
Yeah,
He's 7'4".
Yeah,
Like,
might be tough.
Yeah, I think he's bigger than that submarine. Yeah, I don't know. He is a special talent. Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of his games. I think just about every one of his playoff games, and I mean, it's unnatural to look at. There was a picture of him with JJ Redick, who like JJ Redick's 6'5", and he was at this guy's like armpits. It's just unnatural. It's unnatural when you watch him play. That someone 7'4" can move and do these things. It's unbelievable.
K-Ran in the chat. Porzingis to the Celtics. Thoughts, Kyle? Yeah, I saw that happened.
Yeah, that happened just before we came on. I think it makes a lot of sense for Boston. They need to give Horford some rest. Horford's not young, and they had a lot of point guards anyway. So, they could afford to lose one. They get better at the big spot. I think that's important for them. And I'm not ruling them out as a Chris Paul destination either.
Yeah, it's interesting. NBA. The best part of the NBA is the offseason. This is the season, really.
There are a lot of off-season fans, that's for sure. So,
yeah, this is where you want to tune in.
We're just heating up. There's not a lot of free agents this year, though. It's not a great free agency year. But I mean, we've already seen 2 pretty big trades. Looks like more could be on the horizon.
Yeah, there's always the NBA finds a way.
Yeah, we'll get some trade that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. So yeah, that's your show. I think I'm good. You have any final thoughts?
The Yankees suck, and it's fun to watch.
How they been doing? I haven't checked. What have they been doing recently? I know they haven't been great this year.
They can't hit. They really can't hit. We took 5 out of 6 of them in over 2 series.
Gotcha. They are still ahead of the Red Sox in the standings.
Yeah, we lost 2 stupid games to Colorado in extra innings. If we had that, would be in 3rd place. The Red Sox currently have a 3-game lead on the Minnesota Twins for the AL Central, but they're in the AL East, so that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Twins are currently 2 games below 500, leading the division. Red Sox 4 games above 500, last in their division.
Yeah,
last Yankees by 11, and they're 11 and a half games back too.
Yeah, yeah. This Yankees team though is rough. Like they basically paid Judge all that money and then hoped like their combination of old guys that they signed would work out, keep being good, and that their young guys that they had coming up would also be good. And none of those guys have been good. Josh Donaldson stings. DJ LeMahieu's fell off a cliff. Giancarlo Stanton is Giancarlo Stanton. Who else do they have? That's basically it. Like their second best player right now is Jake Bowers, outside of Anthony Rizzo, because Judge is hurt. Like it's bad. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I got a feel for those Yankees fans.
Yeah. No, you don't.
No.
I enjoyed winning in their house. That was fun. So let's do it again.
Yeah, always a good time to see the Yankees lose, for sure. Any final thoughts on the submarine? I hope they make a miraculous recovery somehow.
I do hope they're found. I'm not optimistic. I can't believe they're doing a documentary on it tonight on like CBS.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, how did they cobble together this documentary so fast?
I don't know. Yeah, what is a documentary just like? Got to be a lot of talking about it, I would assume.
I'm assuming it's the guy, the idiot running the thing, that basically has quotes in the past saying safety is ridiculous. I mean, every time I've seen a layer of the story, it gets more and more ridiculous. Like there's story about his like, oh, the safety procedures. If you do too much safety, it's just ridiculous at some point, right? And like there was like a tech journalist who did, watch this thing and said they lost the submarine for like 5 hours, and that it doesn't have a like a sonar beacon or anything. And they're just like, yeah, we should probably add that. Didn't add it. All of these things are like coming together. It's just like, everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong here. It's just unbelievable.
I also don't know how you feel. I think my worst nightmare is to be in a submarine. Just like in general. Just like I think a submarine, that just seems terrifying. I don't know what's down there. I don't want like some giant squid to attack me. Like I'm good. I'm on land. Land is fine. I like where I can get my feet on the ground. I'll go to the beach and get 4 feet deep in water, and that's all I need.
Yeah, I think the overall consensus is like, just don't go in the ocean anymore.
Yeah,
like the ocean is not for us.
No, yeah, that's their thing. It seems like sea animals are cool with us being like in that the little shallow end, and that's where we're hanging out. Let's let James Cameron go deep, and everyone else we stay where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like we have orcas fighting boats, we have sharks attacking people, we have submarines getting lost. Just don't go in the ocean anymore. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, or maybe stop. Hey, rich people, stop doing Titanic related things.
Yeah, just
again, unless you're James Cameron,
just leave those things alone, I guess. Or what else is he gonna do? Is he gonna make a sequel?
I guess I don't know.
I guess this could be a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. It might be more of a I don't know, like a thriller. I feel like with the closed space. I don't know if I have enough room there to get the cameras.
Someone called Kate Winslet. I don't know. Or the other solution, instead of don't go in the ocean, is bring back plastic. Get some more of those animals out of there, and then we can get back in the ocean.
Ooh, yeah, this is a good idea. Yeah, this is start getting all our rich people to put to poison to go back to poisoning the more oil spills. We can make this happen.
Yeah. That's probably not the best idea either, though. But maybe either way, yeah, I mean, just don't go in the ocean. That's my solution.
Yeah,
I'm good on land. I'll go to a nice lake. A lake sounds nice.
Lake's good. Pool.
Yeah. But they can have the ocean. Orcas win.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations to all the orcas listening an hour and 25 minutes into this podcast. Thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.